Welcome to my INT stacker showcase. I made the video to show off its true potential, to see what kind of endgame scaling is really able to push for DPS and what kind of content you can push on it. I've done everything from full feared to all conquerors over 80 quant, Cyrus 9 no issues, deathless, doing deli farming in Trop Islands as well as Jungle Valley, 100% delirium, as well as full simulacrums. The build itself is fully self-crafted. Everything you see is as good as I could get it. Most items are mirror tier, if not right up close to mirror tier. A few of them are actually mirrorable and are for sale. If you would like to come and mirror them, let me know. I'm going to do a very quick showcase of the gear, show off the defenses, the offenses. Then at some point I'll flip over to POB, show the damage, show the tree, and show some details, as well as some of the jewels and everything that I'm running, including watchers and everything like that. There won't be any hidden details. And then at the end I will showcase several different boss fights, as well as a clip of some Jungle Valley Delirium, because that's the go-to move this league, so I will showcase that at the very end. Thank you for coming, and here we go. Alright, let's go over some gear here real fast before we hop over to POB and go over some things in more detail. Wand is very expensive, tons of fun to craft, and not for the faint of heart if you don't like gambling. The AUG influence alone is 30x, and you've got a 1 in 3 shot of hitting it, and a 2 in 3 shot of completely bricking your wand and losing many exalts. So I don't suggest crafting this yourself. I am leaving this up to be mirrored. It is available. The attack speed is T1. It is a bug that Triple G has not addressed yet. I'm not sure why. The only way to make this wand any better would be to go for T1 flat lightning. There is one gentleman who has one, and he has listed it for 4 mirrors. So if you got 4 mirrors, feel free. If you don't, and you want to come mirror this, just send me a message and I'll set it up for you. Crown of Eyes is best in slot. You can't do any better than that. Unfortunately, after 6 temple runs, I could not hit the most sought after mod. You would like to get additional power charge as an implicit, but I could not, so I ended up with +2 socketed project gems, which is really nice for kinetic blast, so I put kinetic blast into my helmets. Asteria's reflection is very straightforward. Curse and hex immune is so nice. Basically you take half the map mods and get rid of them, which makes it a breeze if you're doing deli content, because rolling beyond on the map is enough of an issue when you're trying to avoid max res and reflect and cannot regenerate. And you'll see that later in a clip I did a cannot regenerate, and it doesn't feel great when you're doing it like that. So, but this is just too good to not have. I've seen some people with rare versions of a shield that have higher ES, but they don't have the curse immunity, and to me that's just a mistake. I don't like being cursed, it's not fun, and when they gutted warding flasks, this was the go-to move. So gloves are pretty disgusting. They could be better, obviously. The T1 flat lightning damage as the 3rd prefix was unfortunate. It's also fortunate because it could have been worse, but you know, you probably want spell damage on this. Otherwise, everything else is pretty straightforward on them. Those gloves synergize really well with the chest. As you can see, I'm stacking frenzy charges. I actually have 6 frenzy charges. I'll show you in the tree real fast. But everything else is perfect suffixes. Obviously, getting T1 flat int would have been better, but percent attributes is really nice as well. The EAS is good. It's not perfect. Obviously, there's 2 T4 ES rolls in there, but this is a ton of ES. Honestly, with 9400 ES, you almost never die. You can take multiple Cyrus beams and still live through it. It's very comfortable and very safe, so I definitely think that this is more than enough. These boots are, again, pretty disgusting. Very expensive, tons of fun to craft. I am missing the elevated elusive mod, and I will go for that before the league is over, but at this point, these were just too nice to not use. Cannot be frozen, cannot be chilled are very nice QOL. If you don't get cannot be chilled, it's not the end of the world. Cannot be frozen, I would say, is a must. Let's face it, getting frozen on any map is not fun, but especially when you're in the middle of a deli map and you have tons of mobs that you need to take care of and you can't do anything, it feels bad, so I go for cannot be frozen. Amulet is good. It is not perfect, obviously. As you can see, the prefixes are missing the INT stacking mod, which would take my damage up another 8 to 9 million. But at 71.5 million, getting to 80 is really not going to be that much of a difference, as everything above 30 million is overkill anyways. I reforged this many times with reforged keeping suffixes and unfortunately could not hit anything better than T1 flat ES and T2% ES, and I exalt slammed for movement speed. It is a very nice amulet, very defensive, tons and tons of int off this, but unfortunately not the int stacking mod on top. Both rings are very nice, both synthesized. One synthesized percent int, the other one has LE weakness. Again, very straightforward. The prefixes were slightly unfortunate on both rings. I was unable to reforge defense more common to hit higher flat ES, which is what I was going for. Ended up crafting the flat lightning damage on both, as through trial and error figured out that flat lightning damage gives you more damage than any crafted wed could give you. The lightning resistance and the fire resistance is very key. It's very hard to get resistances in this build, as all of your gear is basically set up for damage in your suffixes, so you got to get it where you can. And on this one, again, you can see there is absolutely no resistances. I went for crit multi essence spam and hit T1 attack speed and T2 int and called that good enough, and reforged this a ton of times to try and get higher ES. Just didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I mean, these could be made more perfect, and I probably will continue to craft them or try to craft two new rings, but for now these are very, very good rings. And the belt is actually probably the worst piece of equipment that my character is currently outfitted with. Obviously Essence Int is nice, the rest of the suffixes are absolutely garbage. The T1 ES is nice, T2 Wed is okay. It would have been better to get T1. Obviously the item level does not allow that to happen, so this is the highest that this could get, and then I crafted the increased damage. This belt and Headhunter are interchangeable depending on content you're doing. I use this belt for doing normal maps and running Conqueror, Cyrus, Uber Elder, anything else that you could think, as it is a sizable single target DPS increase. But if you're doing deli maps, I would highly suggest getting a Headhunter with a corrupted implicit of percent int and running around with that. You could see that in my later clip, you'll notice that I do Jungle Valley with a Headhunter on, and this build just zooms. So once you have a couple of Headhunter stacks, the Headhunter will carry you and make up for the loss of damage that you lose by dropping the int that you have on this belt. Very quickly to flasks. Flasks are all damage flasks, absolutely no defense on any of the flasks. 9400 ES kind of prevents you from dying to most one-shots. You do randomly get one-shot, like for instance Shaper. When he does his slam, if you're just not outside that AoE circle, you will get one-shot. That's about the only thing that I've noticed so far that routinely will one-shot you. So that's just me not playing well enough with the build and not paying attention, just being careless. That's all that is. That's nothing to do with build design. Dying Sun and Azteri's Promise are both procced when charges reach full. It's a very nice QOL. I hate pressing flask buttons, so these are both very nice. This is mostly QOL for clear as well. It does give you more damage with your power siphon because it's just additional projectiles. All three of these flasks are procced with a rare or unique enemy upon hit. Very straightforward. for Bottled Faith and Cinder Swallow. Now the Diamond Flask is where it deviates a little bit. This is a Ashling Unveil craft, and this flask actually gives you nearly the same amount of crit and damage that a Bottled Faith will. If you were to craft the 50% increased effective flask, then it would be only 5% less than what Bottled Faith gives you, which is absolutely insane for something that costs less than 50C. If you don't know about this flask, other streamers have put out videos about how to make it. This is very straightforward. This is probably one of the nicest hidden treasures of this league. Is when I stumbled upon it, I was very happy with it. So putting this out there, hopefully people can learn something from it. If you need any advice on how to craft it, again, Path of Math has a video. You can definitely look that up, or just leave something in the comments and maybe I'll make a very short video on how to do that. Tree, I'm going to go over extremely quickly because I'll go over it in more detail in POB. Occultist for additional curse. Berserker for all that rage generation. Rage is absolutely insane. With rage and Occultist, you can't be stunned, so that's very nice because who wants to get stunned? It's basically the same thing as being frozen. The only real deviation that I did from anyone else playing this version of the build with Frenzy stacking is I picked up an extra Frenzy with Intuitive Leap here, and I picked up Heartseeker as well. Clusters are good. They are not perfect. They're pretty close. They're like 9 out of 10. They're disgustingly expensive to craft, and even more expensive to purchase, so I would suggest picking up bases and starting with alteration spamming and augmenting them, and once you get a base you like, obviously you go into Beastcraft and imprint it and go from there. The other option is you can reforge keeping prefixes once you have T1 ES and 35% increased effect, but again, those are all very expensive crafts. Watcher's Eye is absolutely disgusting. I was going for a third mod of increased attack speed while having precision. Unfortunately, at the time that I bought this, there was nothing else on the market, so I went with this instead. Crit cap is so effortless on this build right now, it's not even funny. Transcendent Flesh to finish off over here. And each of the rest of the jewels are mostly made up of damage mods, and if you needed some res, which my build did need some res, I picked up some res here and here. A little bit more res here, and some more here. And then everything else is basically attack mods. Emperor's Wit is very expensive. It's not necessary for the build. It is a luxury. If you go for a different rare jewel, you might actually end up with more damage. I just love the fact that it gives me a ton of crit, and the percent increased int is very nice as well. And then both of these are just attacks. So, alright, I'm going to hop over to POB and display some things in more detail, so bear with me a moment here. Alright, quickly hopped over to the POB just to show it off a little bit. Any details that I'm missing, feel free to ask. I will answer any and all comments in the comment section. As you can see, same tree that I laid out in-game. Nothing's different. There's no cheating. This number, 71.3 million, is insane. This is unfortunately dependent upon having rage generation as well as your flasks up and Val Haste being able to be procced. At the end, I will show you the damage without those things. It's about half, but still at 37 million DPS, that is far more than enough damage to kill anything very quickly. The only time that you won't have Rage and Val Haste active is against Cyrus. You will probably have your flask charges for the final phase, but even if you don't, you can see from my Cyrus clip that I walked in and just nuked him down in the final phase. So it is effortless. It basically trivializes any and all endgame content. Delirium farming is a joke. This build does everything that I want and more, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. One thing I will point out is that I am level 100. If you do not get to level 100 and you're only level 94, which is what I would say close to minimum threshold for this build would be, then just take out these 6 points down here. If you're not going Frenzy either, you definitely do not need to stack Frenzies. You can take out 2 more nodes here and use them elsewhere. I wasn't stacking Frenzies originally. I had a different chest that I hadn't finished crafting that one yet, and I used a very large Sword of Hope, and I had close to 13,000 ES. and about 60 million DPS. So it netted me about 12 million increased damage, and I lost obviously about 2500 ES. But I am much happier with stacking frenzies. Frenzies just inherently scale your damage, your movement speed, and everything else that goes along with it, including with your rage. So it just makes sense to me to frenzy stack this build. That's why I enjoy playing the Ascendant so much. Berserker is incredible for generating rage. Hopping into items very quickly. All the items are exactly the same as what they were shown in in-game. Very quickly about prices of what these things cost. This wand was very expensive, it is very RNG heavy, and I do not suggest it unless you have a huge bankroll. I spent approximately 120x, and that was with me getting extremely lucky. You could easily double or triple that, depending on how your RNG goes. The AUG influence alone, depending on market prices, are 25 to 35x, and you have a 1 in 3 shot of hitting the mod that you're trying to roll. I hit it on the first try. If you don't, it's bricked, you sell it, you start over, and you're out 60x. So I would highly suggest either buying one that's already crafted or mirroring mine or someone else's that has one that's as good as this, unless you actually want to go through with this craft, in which case I wish you all the best, and please post it because it's a ton of fun when people make awesome crafts that work out. Chest was approximately 60x, and that was after reforging defense numerous times. It had... I've had 290, 305, and eventually I hit 597, and I said, okay, this is enough. I've already spent 60x. I'm going to keep this and continue to move forward. Gloves were relatively expensive. I believe I put about 30x into these, and that was actually quite low considering how lucky I got. I got very lucky that my prefixes filled when I Awakener orbed it, and it was a useful mod. I actually considered annulling it, but redoing the Awaken Orb on it would have been a bit of a trigger point for me, and I just decided to continue forward with it. As you can see, Intimidate is not being granted by POB for whatever reason, so I do go into configuration and manually engage that because it's Intimidate on hit, it's not the percent Intimidate, so that is guaranteed that you have that at all times. Boots were approximately 80x to craft, and that's after bricking them twice and having to fix them twice. So you can do better than that. They probably would be cheaper, and I still haven't even gone for the third elevated mod, so add another 20x minimum and hope you don't brick them again. Amulet was in the realm of 50 to 60x, maybe even more. I kind of lost track at a certain point. I do know that I put an exorbitant amount of currency into trying to re-roll the prefixes to make them better, to have the instacking mod on them. Instacking mod would net me about 8 to 9 million more damage, which is nice, but again, way overkill. Each of these rings bases were 10x. The belt base alone was 12x, and I probably put 20x into each ring in essences. Essences were very expensive this league. You're talking about 9 essences per X for int, and I think it was 10 for crit multi. And you're just sitting there essence spamming until you hit some mods that you like. Unfortunately, again, the belt can be made a lot better, and I probably will recraft this or make a new one. But for the way it is, it's fantastic. All the jewels are exactly as I showed in-game. Nothing there is different. You can see 71.3 million damage. 365 mana leech on hit, which is really nice. And 2000 ES leech, which is stupendous as well. Like, honestly, if you die with this build, it's because you're not playing very well. You're in a bad position, you jump into a pack of mobs, and you don't think before you do something like that. It happens to me from time to time. Sometimes when you have as much damage as this build does, you get a little careless, and you do, unfortunately, do dumb things, and they get you killed. But the build itself will not get you killed because it is built in a way that has very high defense, very high damage, and extremely high leech. You can see that the reses are all capped. You have a ton of movement speed, and if you're not running the belt that I have and you put in a headhunter, you can just triple to quadruple that movement speed once you get moving with Haste and Soul Eater. Once you see the clip of Jungle Valley with this build, which if you've never seen a Headhunter in action, it's pretty eye-opening. Headhunter might be one of the most broken items in the game, but if they never nerf it, none of us will ever complain because it is so much fun to run around with. I would say that to be completely transparent, I'm going to remove my Rage. I'm going to deactivate all the flasks. This is worst case scenario. You don't have anything active, so take off Val Haste as well, just to show just about 37 million without Val Haste. And more often than not, when you get to bosses, because you've mapped, you're going to have Val Haste, and you're going to have your Rage. You may not have 50, but you're going to have your Rage. And you should have your flash charges as well, because all of them are set up to proc on hitting a rare unique enemy, and they will refill as you run the map. Now, quickly going over skills, you can see them better in the PoE Ninja profile as well. I didn't even go for level 21 Power Siphon. It's not that much more damage. It's the only reason why I didn't go for it. Awaken Lightning Pen, again, no change to level 6, and Awaken Ellie damage is, again, pretty minimal changes for a huge increase in price. I always go with a little bit of Chasm damage taken. You don't have to run that. It's just a nice layer of defense, as we are not getting any evasion or any physical damage mitigation in this build otherwise, as it is on a Scion. If you'd like to get some more defensive layers, run Ranger or run the Occultist, but you will be selling yourself short on damage by running either of those. You can scale them, but it costs more. And Ranger obviously has the ability to get a lot more evasion out of the tree. You could also, for more defense if you wanted to, go into Phase and Acro and pick these up here. I actually played around with not having these and picking these up instead. I like the damage more. I honestly think that good offense is a very good layer of defense as well, so you can keep that in mind as well. Very straightforward. I run Berserk. You can add Enhance into this and take out Flame Dash and put it into a different link elsewhere, and it would give you more damage. Kinetic Blast is in the helmet. This is my dual curse, snipers, conductivity, Arcanist brand. Obviously I have Ellie weakness on my ring, which is right there. But again, very straightforward, try not to hide anything. Nothing is baited. I hate when people say PoB warriors and it's all bait. So for optics and transparency, I am showing you as much as I can. I'm going to hop over to the PoE Ninja profile really quickly, and then I will showcase the boss kills as well as T16 Jungle Valley Delirium at the very end. So thank you for watching this far. Alright, last thing, PoE Ninja profile real fast. You can look it up, it's public. I don't like to hide anything, so anything that you need to find is all here. Keep that number in mind, that it should be 10% higher just from Intimidate. Whatever reason, PoB and PoE Ninja do not take Intimidate on hit off the gloves, and incorporate that into my damage, which is whatever. It's only 5 million more on PoE Ninja. 6 Frenzy, 6 Power. All flasks are all here. Everything is exactly as I've shown in both PoB and in-game. All the gems are here. Nothing is different. Coming up, you'll see me flop Cyrus, all the Conquerors, Maven, and T16 Jungle Valley Delhi farming, which has a Headhunter. I should point out that all bosses were done on Awakener 9. I will show that in between every single boss, but just to point it out, just in case you're at this point right now and you're wondering, no, I'm not doing it on Awakener 0, and no, I'm not doing it on Awakener 4, it's Awakener 9. And you'll notice how quickly they all flop. So please enjoy. Thank you for watching this far, and hopefully you enjoy what you see. It is a ton of fun, and I highly recommend this build. This build actually saved this league for me. I almost quit the league after about the 3rd week, until I decided to farm as much currency as I could and try and roll a Giga Chad build to end the league. Currently, right now, I am working on a Frostblades Berserker Headhunter meme build, but this is my favorite build that I played this league, so thanks for tuning in, and hope you enjoy.
The fights must never end. Your mortality.
Welcome! Time has no meaning here. Your pain will be endless. You stand victorious.
My intermittent rest only knows relief when I
I shall cast you into a pit of infinite tortures. Heretic! Kirak sent you.
I've killed countless thousands. What's one more? No mercy. I am the law.
Can I not have but a moment's respite?
Your
The puppets dance on string-tied tethers. One more for my collection.
With your death, this nightmare may finally end. I'm better. Molten One.
This sparkle is gold. Everlasting fire. Feel the thrill of the void.
Exalted orb. An exhilarating sensation of victory. Something if only for a brief moment.
A cascade of pain. Take this. Stand still.
Of immense power.
These memories are mine. I cannot lose them.
They lied to you, Father. I'm your true memory.
To save the future, the past must be sacrificed.
We need to close this.
Gaze into the abyss.
You and I were allies once, even friends. But a pity.
Confusing.
I am...
Chaos Orb. Chaos Orb.
I have nothing more to give.
Chaos Orb. Hail!
Enjoy this breath.
They are coming.
Of fusion.
Just in time. Your death is a mercy.